parts of the family are still back there, but most of them just migrated west.
We got
Your question is whether
1690
we're
from
up,
Scotland.
Aaron?
My
Well,
aunt is about
I'm just walk over to the little cameras and I'll see what's going on here. Oh, there it goes.
And
So
she
we're on?
and her husband,
Yeah.
he
Okay. It is 7 o'clock, and I call the July 11th, 2023 special meeting of the Franklin County Planning Commission meeting to order. Before we get into the meeting, I will turn things over to staff to discuss meeting format.
So tonight's meeting will be conducted through hybrid in-person online meeting platform. Let's see, if you wish to comment, need clarification on a public hearing item, please send us an email at planinquiry@franklincountywa.gov before the public comment period closes. Once public comment period has closed on said item, comments will not be included as part of discussion. To those in attendance, please remember to speak in the microphone when addressing staff or public comments / testimonies.
Will planning staff please call roll and announce whether or not we have a quorum?
Mike Crowlis,
Here.
Mike Vincent,
Here.
Layden Lowe,
Here.
Melinda Didier,
here.
Peter Harpster, Manny Gutierrez,
Here.
Stacy Knifton, Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Will staff in attendance please introduce yourselves?
Derek Broughton.
Aaron Gunderson, Planner 2.
Derek Broughton, Planning Director.
Ryan Nelson, Planner 1.
Okay, I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Lowe and seconded by Commissioner Gutierrez. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Motion passes. We have a new guy. Stacy's here. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the June 20th, 2023 meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Didier and seconded by Commissioner Knifton. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. It is now time for the public hearing portion of our meeting. Good evening and welcome. I will turn things briefly over to our staff host, who will go over the ground rules for tonight's hearing.
So here are the ground rules for tonight's hybrid meeting. In-person public testimony be divided in two groups, for and against / neutral. They'll be called upon to speak during their allotted in-person public testimony section, giving their name for the audio record and position on the proposal. WebEx public testimony will be called upon individually during the WebEx public testimony portion of the hearing, giving their name for the audio record, as well as if they are in favor, neutral, or against the proposal. Email public comments received during the public hearing will be read into the record by staff after the WebEx public testimony hearing. All comments and questions shall be addressed to the Plan Commission and should be relevant to the application and not be of a personal nature. Each speaker shall have 5 minutes to provide testimony and shall speak into the microphone. Please avoid repetitive comments. If there are a large number of speakers or part of a group or organization, please select a representative to speak on behalf of the group. Behavior such as clapping, booing, hissing, or remarks is prohibited. Every citizen here tonight should have the opportunity to testify without such distractions.
Are there any questions regarding the public hearing ground rules? Turning for a moment to our commission members, let us keep in mind that we are prohibited by law from communicating with members of the public on the subject matter of these hearings except in these hearings. We also may not participate in a discussion in which there is an appearance of conflict of interest to the average person. So let us take a minute to consider as to the matter which are before us for the hearing today. Whether we had any ex parte communications, whether we have any ownership interest in the properties, whether we have any business dealings with proponents or opponents of the matters, or whether we have business associates or immediate family who may either be benefited or harmed by a decision in these matters. Are there any commission members who have a declaration at this time regarding any of these items on the agenda? Let the record show there were no declarations. Is there anyone in the audience who would object to any commission member hearing any of these items on the agenda?
Nobody's on the phone or anywhere.
Nobody's on the phone or online? Okay. Let the record show there were no objections. The order of the hearing should be as follows. Planning staff shall provide a staff report. The commission may ask questions of staff. The applicant or applicant's representative's presentation. In-person public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project. WebEx public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project. Email public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project, if any to be read into the record by staff. Final staff comments. Clarification of public statements that occurred during the testimony portion of the public hearing. Close the public hearing and Planning Commission discussion of the proposed action. Are there any procedural questions before we begin the public hearing? Seeing none, we will proceed to item 1. Item 1 is a public hearing for file CUP 2023-1, SEPA 2023-1. Is a proposal to allow for the construction of a detached auxiliary dwelling unit. This land use action is allowed upon approval of a CUP as provided in FCC 17.66.060. Request is to have a 1,500 square foot double-wide trailer to be used for housing for elderly family members. I declare the public hearing for CUP 2023-1, SEPA 2023-1 to be open at 7:07. May we have staff present the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Off the bat, there were some corrections that needed to be made in the staff report. They're generally citation or typos that we came across. We do some cut and paste, and sometimes these things slip through the initial review. However, staff did catch them before the hearing, so we're going to read those changes into the record, which will update the record with regard to it. If you have questions about any of these elements as I read them out, please proceed at that time, as that item is being read in, so that we can just kind of go through them. If you have questions, we'll do that. So it's going to be, the version that will go to the board will reflect the changes that I'm discussing right now. Then I'll get into the presentation, okay, because you got the staff report before you got your presentations. So the first is on page 1. Regarding the comprehensive plan land use designation, it was changed from rural shoreline development to rural settlement because that's the proper comprehensive plan designation for that site. On page 2, it says suggested recommendations, suggested motion. It lists 9 suggested conditions. There's actually 10 suggested conditions of approval. On page 3, staff's analysis section, paragraph 3, should state FCC 17.66060 A, B, C, F, and G. So what that is that's what we refer to as our 1680 rule. When a accessory structure in various, shoreline, RS, and RC zones, when they're in those zones and they are more than 1,680 square feet, then they meet these design requirement standards. They must match the materials and the color for the roof and the siding to that of the primary structure, the house. So often the way we see this is, especially along the shoreline, a lot of stucco. So if your house is done in stucco and your accessory structure exceeds 1,680 square feet, and actually, this is a different rule now that I think about it, because this is for an ADU. And all ADUs are required detached. They'll match that as well. So subsection E, as stated in the staff report, refers to the exterior colors of the accessory dwelling siding must be compatible with the primary dwelling. Subsection F states the accessory dwelling may be a factory assembled home or may be constructed within an existing proposed detached accessory building. So in that application, the colors are again, compatible. Maybe the house is a particular color of blue and this will match that blue. So because this is an application for an FAS, correct? Yeah. That's what I thought. I apologize. I have a lot of things going in my head, and I don't want to misspeak on the record. So that's why I ask questions sometimes. Agency comment criteria for findings of fact. So, and this is what caused the numbering change, is that it was missing the initial condition associated with archaeological as in our suggested conditions. The Confederated Tribes actually did support an inadvertent discovery protocol. They did not request or seek but we didn't even have that on there, so we made sure to put that in there. So that's what changed everything from 9 to 10 in that earlier for the suggested conditions of approval. And as I just said, so now I'm on the last change, which was added the inadvertent discovery plan to the conditions as condition number 5, and that changed the condition numbers. So, any questions? Long story short, nothing really material, nothing major. There's, the regulations in the shoreline development area are pretty much the same in this application. They're the same as in the shoreline or in rural. The rural shoreline development area and the rural settlement area, the rules for putting in an ADU are the same. It's not a difference there. So, and then like I said, the other items are mostly clarification or finer notes or more articulated requirements. If there's no questions on this, I'll go ahead and move into the presentation. Okay. So, this is a conditional use permit for a detached accessory dwelling unit. It is at 350 Quinto Road, Eltopia, Washington, 99330, parcel number 123563028. It is rural community 5, RC5, rural settlement, approximately 4.99 acres. The location is south of Quinto Road, east of Ziegler Road, and north of Patricia Road. It's a detached accessory dwelling unit, approximately 1,500 square foot for the placement of a double-wide manufactured home. And the site plan provided a gravel driveway, existing single-family dwelling, septic area, well, irrigation, water, power pole, water line from the well to the existing home, and the location of the proposed DADU. This is the subject property. Right there. What it looks like. There's our notice. Proposed location. Now on this, we have right here, 30 by 60, that's 1,800. Can't have 1,800, 16, it'll be, they're now, you know, this was their initial, hey, I want to come talk to you, site plan. So they've been notified, and in fact, their stuff now states a 15, which is why we have that, 1,500 in the staff report. On or about June 1, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners with 1 mile, and posted in the Franklin County Graphic. They also posted a pending land use action on the property and submitted to the SEPA registry and with file number 202-302-553. We received no comments, public comments for this proposal. We did have some initial issues associated with the water access because it's from a shared community well, and that shared community well, there were issues, so then they moved and said, okay, they got approval to put in their own well. So that's the path they're taking. So the house is connected to the community well, or they may decide that they want to switch, but that's not really relevant to our item. They have water. And we won't release the permit until we have proof that that new well has been drilled, or they've received permission from the community well operator to connect. I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, we always check for water before we release permits. Because remember, a conditional use permit is permission to proceed. We here generally don't get into specific details on this type of things. They'll have to meet all the requirements of anybody else. It's just a matter of whether or not they'll be allowed to even do that, to submit an application. So, this mouse is not very responsive. Oh, I just said that. Okay. Getting ahead of myself. All right. FCC 17.66060, use regulations. DADU is permitted if the parcel is 2 acres, so this one's 5. But it shall not exceed 1,600. So that's what anybody in a detached accessory dwelling unit is limited to. And then they may be permitted to care for aged parents, also permanent hired help, or other family members. The approach permit is required. And in this case, because there's an existing approach, it's most likely that what will happen is Public Works will go out, double check to make sure the existing approach is adequate, and then sign off on it. If it's not, then they'll require them to make whatever modifications, then sign on it, and then we can release the permit. And then any utility extension crossing Franklin County roads will be addressed at the time of application. Then there was letters from the Department of Ecology. If I recall correctly, that was that standard form letter that they normally, if you're doing this, then you got to do that. If you're doing that. And then Confederate Tribes Colville, they, as I mentioned, stated that they were satisfied with inadvertent discovery protocols for archaeological or tribal things. DAHP determines the beer cans. But Franklin County Planning and Building. So these this one's titled a little differently, sorry. Factory assembly. So this is not agents of well, this is, but this is also our conditions. Factory assembled structured FAS placement permit will be required and completed before the DADU can be placed. DADU shall not be sold separately from the primary dwelling and other existing structures on the property. That could change if certain things change, such as the zoning of the property somehow were changed to a smaller lot line. They were able to subdivide the property off, but that's the only way. You can't sell the unit individually unless you are able to somehow create a separate parcel for that unit.
But they can sell the double wide.
They can sell the double wide.
The way you have a word, it sounds like they can't sell.
I'd never really thought of it that way.
Is one of your requirements to have the title eliminated?
Not necessarily, especially I mean, for example, say you're building it for someone that it doesn't have an expected lifespan beyond a couple years,
Right.
you know? So, I think that, it's not what's meant, and it's never been viewed that way, and we've never thought about it that way.
You're talking about subdividing and selling a parcel.
You could actually do that, if you could subdivide the property, but you
Right.
can't because it's at its minimum.
The way I
acre.
read that is
Yeah.
But what
if mom
you're
and dad aren't there anymore,
You
and I
could
want to
do-
sell the double wide, I can't.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. We're gonna have to reword this a little bit. Let's get that. Shall not be sold separately from the primary.
Does that have that latitude in your code? Does it even address it?
Well, so it's not a matter of, I mean, anybody, because, see, manufactured homes or FASs are property like a car. And until such times the title's eliminated and or it's pit set, it's considered that way. So we cannot bind that. But if they were to develop it pit set and eliminate the title, then this would be
I guess
accurate.
that's the way around it, is if it's eliminated title, then you can't sell it. 'cause
Right,
it's attached to the
but a DADU is not required necessarily, that I'm aware of, to have the title eliminated.
The only time I've
So,
ever seen that it be required is if it's financed, and then the finance company will make you a title just so they can't just hook onto it.
right, so,
I know that can happen.
cannot be sold separately from the primary dwelling and other existing structures on the property. Without removing from the property. No, that wouldn't work either. DADU shall not be sold separately from the primary dwelling and other existing structures. So how do we, DADU? Because then that starts the next chain. So let's say then they all of a sudden they decide, no, I just want to do a stick built instead. Do I have to go? No, I wouldn't have to do that. Okay.
I guess the only reason it makes it an issue is because it is a factory assembled structure.
You know, I think actually,
So,
and
from the building.
even thinking, okay, let's say they do go stick built, right? There would still be nothing that prohibits them from selling that house and having someone haul it off and move the house, even if it was stick built. So the key here is, unless removed from the property, the DADU shall not be sold separately. Okay. Yeah.
I think it was also speaking to the fact that if they sell the parcel, that,
No, that's the intent,
yeah,
but and 99.99% of the time, it would cover it, except for under that one caveat with a DADU where they don't take it off the wheels or anything like that, and they just set it up. Well, we can't stop them from selling it afterwards, and the language here does say, shall not be sold separately from the primary dwelling. So unless removed from the property. Now, yeah, somebody could come back and go, well, do I have to remove it before I can sell it? Or, no, you can sell it and then remove it. We'll deal with that if it ever comes up, but I think this clears up that little glitch.
I did notice that on their application, they marked binding site plan. That's not applicable to this, is it?
No. That's how those lots apparently maybe were formed. I'd have to look, but most of those lots were formed through records of surveys. I'm only aware of one binding site plan in the county, and that was Burns Estates. And even that didn't end up getting developed as a VSP. It ended up just getting developed piecemeal.
Sure.
And in fact, they even came back, and it caused, I remember we brought that here, where it caused confusion because all of a sudden they had a BSP and it was approved, and then they decided they were going to go change something, and I was sitting there racking my head trying to figure out why they did a BSP on residential land in the first place. So,
Normally it's with commercial structures. when you're-
exactly, yeah,
Right.
commercial industrial is when you
Yeah.
do the binding site plans, not on
The
residential.
plat exemption.
PUDs are residential or commercial, but usually you see them primarily residential, or 50/50 is usually, you know, as far as commercial. That's the most I've ever seen commercial get in a PUD, is about 50/50. Doesn't mean they can't, but, so does that work for everyone? Unless removed from the property, the DADU shall not be sold.
Yeah.
Okay. The DADU shall be no older than 5 years from the current calendar year upon purchase. Yeah, that was strangely worded, but basically it can't be older than 5 years. That's the rule there. Some areas and some zones, they have to be brand new. Some areas, so RS zones, they have to be brand new. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the shoreline, they have to be brand new. RC1, I think they can be 5 years or newer, yeah. Yeah, so RCs, they can be 5 years or newer. RR, 5 years or newer. AP, the ag lands, there is no date, so. Living area shall not be used other than for the intended purpose of this permit. That is not an odd thing, but one thing, you know, a DADU can't be used for a home occupation. Only the primary structure can. Or an outbuilding can be designated as a home occupation space, but the DADU itself, it's only for residing.
They can't use it as a home?
Home occupation. They can't run a business out of it. Applicant will need to follow provisions of Franklin County Code, Chapter 17.66060, accessory dwelling units, detached. Completed proof of water availability form and well log required at time of FAS permit submittal. So we won't even accept their permit application until we have proof of that water availability. So we believe, you know, the proposed uses in the RC5 zoning is in accordance with the goals and policy of the county, development regulations, and the comp plan. It will not affect public infrastructure adversely. Will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony with the existing or intended character of the general city. I mean, you guys know, there ain't nothing different about that. Lots of folks got situations just like that all over out there. The location and height of the structure and site design will not discourage the development of permitted use on property in the general vicinity or impair the value thereof. Same thing. It's a 5-acre site. It's just another outbuilding. In fact, we have people that use FASs for storage buildings. Board up everything except for the door, and the operation in connection with the proposal will not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise, fumes, vibration. It's a house. So it's going to be the same impact as any other residential. And there wasn't a lot of residential out there. It's one of the few actual developed lots out in that area, in that particular block of lots. And it will not endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare if located where proposed. In addition to our standard conditional use permit language, the applicant shall comply with comments provided by the Washington Department of Ecology, Franklin County Public Works, Franklin County Planning and Building Department, and the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation, which is actually, yeah. So DAHP just didn't say anything. Okay. I have suggested motion, but I'd like to answer any questions you may have.
Eric, is there any stipulation or regulation against this conditional use permit if the owners in the future decided to sell, would they have to resubmit for another, the new owners, would they have to resubmit for a conditional use on this?
No, frankly, and we're working on some amendments to get this a little different. But right now, I'm not, let's just put it this way, I'm not aware of a single DADU in the county that has been removed, except for some temporary ones. So, because, you know, their daughter could want to live there, their son, their, you know, I mean, they could have some healthcare provider living in there while they're providing the healthcare services in-house. I mean, there's just a lot of dynamics there, so no, they would not. It's about the placement on the site, and it can stay there as long as that unit is being used as permitted under law. I didn't know anybody was here, so that kind of freaked me out. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
I have a question, and is it, will we be amending the Franklin County Code for housing with the new state? And
I
that
am
will
working on
affect-
it. I can't say that we will or we won't, because those laws generally apply to cities as a requirement, and if even available to counties, are optional.
They're optional for the county.
Some of them are, some of them we can't, they're not even offered to us. Aaron's working on going through all of that stuff, getting it together. But yeah, we'll be looking to make some changes to how the rural residential, we'll be proposing changes, and we'll see what happens. You'll see them all. They will come here first.
I didn't see anything in here, or maybe I missed it, but if they're gonna add another building, what do they do with sewer? I'm guessing they're on septic.
Yeah, it'd be
They
so.
have to upgrade the septic system, or?
That usually will come out during the actual build process or just beforehand. They have to go to the Department of Hiccups, sorry. They have to go to the Department of Health. Their septic tank needs to be checked. It may be adequate. I have heard of such a thing, but it's very rare for a septic tank to be significantly large enough to accommodate a second home. There are people out there, you know, oh, I need a 750, then I want a 1,500 gallon tank. I've got it open now, just put it in there. It ain't gonna change nothing. You know, a few $100s more, but I won't have to do anything if I do decide to at a later date in life.
I did.
That's very rare.
I did that.
See, I'm the kind of guy that would probably do that too, you know? I mean, I'm waiting, but I just signed up to get my house done in solar, and I'm going for the full meal deal, you know, to run my
As long as
whole
that's
house.
accommodated for in there, it's during the building permit, or placement permit process is where that comes in.
Yeah. Remember, and again, with conditional use permits, just because we approve it, it doesn't mean that the party is going to be able to meet the adopted conditions and/or be able to afford to do what we're doing. And that's whether they can or they can't. It's not our business. It's not our concern. Just like, you know, so this is what they want to do. This is what you have to do. If you can meet those conditions, you get to move forward. If you can't, sorry.
Any more questions? Does the applicant or applicant's representative wish to speak? In-person public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project? Email public testimony for, against, or neutral? Staff have any final comments?
No, just
Is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience? The public testimony portion of public hearing for CUP 2023-1, SEPA 2023-1 is closed. Is there any discussion amongst the planning commission prior to entertaining a motion? I will entertain a motion.
You have a motion verbiage up there, Derek?
Maybe. It's this, I'm right-handed, but you have to hit the left side of the pad to get it to change.
Yes.
Yes.
I know he's got it.
Oh. I'll make the motion. I move to the Franklin County Planning Commission recommend to the Board of County Commissioners adopt the 6 findings of fact and the 10 conditions of approval detailed in the report and approve case file CUP 2023-1 and CPA.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Lowe and seconded by Commissioner Vincent that we forward to the Board of Commissioners recommendation of approval for CUP 2023-1, SEPA 2023-1 with the 6 adopted findings of fact and 10 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mike Rallis,
Yes.
Melinda Didier,
Yes.
Mike Vincent,
Yes.
Layden Lowe,
Yes.
Stacy Knifton,
Yes.
Manny Gutierrez.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion has passed.
Is there a member of the audience who wants to comment on any item not listed on the agenda?
Did you close the hearing? That was done earlier, wasn't it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you closed.
That's what, yeah, he closed, yeah, the record. What time was that? I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Administrative items, update on previous items that went before.
Well, since that was all 2 weeks ago, nothing's gone to the board yet, from our last meeting, but it will be going by the, throughout July, and we'll get those things moved to the board.
Preview of Mullen.
Well, really, we just want to kind of give you a heads up that we've got some interesting ones coming. We got the CPA docket, so that is now coming to you guys for your recommendation.
How many do you have this year?
Just 2. And then we have a conditional use permit for the Mullen Richview water system, which is a public-private community. It's a large system. It's looking to just serve, if I recall correctly, 6 potential subdivisions along the shoreline area. And it is a private water system operating off of existing water rights that somebody has over there, well, Mullen. And so that request will be coming next month, or September, sorry. And then, so that'll be a conditional use permit. Then that one again, water sewer systems. It's not a sewer system, it's just water system. But anyways, those types of things, highly technical projects, things like that. So our role is not to really get into the details. Yes, how big of pipes, but not what type of pipes. I mean, those types of things. What are your fault? We're not designers, and we need to leave that. What we're looking at is, yes, you may proceed. No, you may not. Or our recommendation is to allow them to proceed. Our recommendation is not.
I thought we didn't do anything on water.
It's not our system.
It's what?
See, it says
water system.
Yes, we don't do anything except for the fact that you can't just go and develop a utility in the middle of our jurisdiction without talking to us about it. This is a privately owned water system that's going to serve 6 subdivisions. Those subdivisions are our constituents, and we need to make sure that this is being done the way it's supposed to be done. That's our role in it. Whether or not it
Done
actually,
underneath a conditional use permit, correct?
as far as we know, we don't know of any other mechanism in our jurisdiction for that process. Because frankly, I'm not aware of it happening in decades.
Private water systems?
Big ones,
What's
That's
big?
a big-
like 600 plus units.
And it's gonna be
That's a
private.
big system.
Correct. Private meaning that it's not owned by a municipality or jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So Basin City Water is a private water system.
So is Eltopia's.
Eltopia, all of them out in the county, except for
This is gonna
NISA,
be bigger than
Connell.
either one of them.
But still, it's the same deal. I mean, we're not gonna do any of the technical stuff. We're not gonna design it. We're not gonna do the health stuff. What do we do?
It's zoning,
We decide
Zoning
whether or
what?
not we
That they can
think,
have it out there?
yeah.
whether
That's a
we
conditional
think
use
it
permit.
is in the best interest of the county, based on our comprehensive plan, because you have to remember, everybody has a right to due process. So they will present their facts and their rationales and their reasons. We will look at the proposal based on our comprehensive plan, the zoning allowances and things like that. If there's nothing in my code that prohibits it, then I can't really deny it. You know, so, because again, I'm a technocrat. Boom, my recommendations are based on the law.
So
Not
looking down the
necessarily
road-
whether I like it or not. They're based on what the law says. Those things that move beyond the law, that starts falling under the purview of the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. That is not my purview. As they say, I have no opinion. I only present the facts, or I do my best to do that. You know, I don't have opinions on things. You know, there are things that I've brought to you that I've recommended approval for that I was completely against. There's, personally. Because that my job is not to fulfill what, or make recommendations based on what I think should be done for the county. I follow the laws, my recommendations are based on that. The planning commission makes its recommendation, and then finally the board decides whether our recommendations make sense.
So we're just basically a land use issue, is if
You will be making a recommendation based on whether or not you think that this system, with the information provided to you in the record, is what's best for the county. That's what you're supposed to always be doing.
Not the first private system in the county.
No.
No, we've got lots of them. I just don't know how they were formed beforehand.
Is any part of this in service yet, or is this a
No.
completely future plan?
They've got all their pieces lined up. You know, they've got the tacit approval from ecology.
But there are no houses built yet that are gonna be converted to this, or
I can't say that, but the ones that they show are,
future?
but I don't want to really get too much
It's only a
more
certain
into this
amount of
one.
Engineering. It's all big, comes down to engineering and size and space and everything.
That's what I
else.
was trying to say, is that
Highly
we,
regulated by
we're
the
not
state.
water regulators. The water, it'll be one of those situations similar to when we do the
Big
CAFOs.
deal.
I'm on one now.
It'll be, the conditions will be, must meet this person, or this agency's requirements, must meet that one, must meet that one, must meet that one. Because they're the ones that will actually control, just like when it comes to a ranch expansion. You know, some guy goes to 10,000 head of cattle. Well, I'm not out there counting the cattle. I'm not out there doing, that's what other agencies do, at the state level. So it would be the case here too.
Okay, you've piqued our interest.
So,
Next, short course on local planning.
It's expensive, I know that.
short course on local planning?
I don't know. it's
Oh,
on
the-
the thing.
Oh, I'm like, no, he said, it after he said it, he goes, it's expensive, I know that. I'm like, no, it's not, it's free.
Saying that private
Yes, yes,
private utility is was expensive and it's getting more expensive by the
This is,
day.
which is why they want to make sure before they do anything else on it,
They'll make their money back on those.
whether or not
$600.
it's going to be able to be approved.
Totally.
So,
Then they'll charge each house for
Well,
water usage.
what you have to do
Yeah.
is you have to build reserve up when you live within the confines of that water system. Because of the future.
we'll talk about that later. I don't want to get too much into it because it is a conditional use permit. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But you will be getting a pretty fat packet.
How much in advance will we have to be able to look at the packet to be able to start dissecting and? picking
Let's get it
apart?
out. We'll shoot for 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're gonna try to shoot for.
You gotta understand, we never know day to day what's gonna happen and between now and then. But our goal is at least a week on the big ones. We'll try to get that out to you guys sooner. So more, no less than a week and hopefully more than a week. That office is strange, the way it goes hot and cold. So, or other weird things that I have to deal with. But yeah, we're mandated by code to have it to, a week, or by policy, a week in advance, but we do try on these bigger ones to get that information out sooner, so. And then the short course on local planning on September 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. It'll be here. And I'm going to turn that over to Aaron because he's the one who's setting it up and getting it all put together.
So, yeah, we're just, I've been kind of working with Department of Ecology not ecology, commerce. Sorry, brain's a little like, meh.
Been a long day.
But, yeah, so I've been working with them for the past, probably about a month or two at this point. Just trying to get one set up here locally, because I figured it's a good idea. It's a good primer, refresher, kind of on basics of like planning law and
Have all y'all taken it?
digest.
I know some of you have, but I don't think all of you have.
Yeah.
And that's really a big reason why we put this together.
Yeah.
Is to give you all that opportunity for the thing, and then also to bring other folks, including the public, is more than welcome to attend this event.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
It's a good, it's a good course. The short course,
yeah, and also on top of that too, there's OPMA training, and I think that's kind of part of obviously you guys have to do it within 90 days of starting, but then there's also another condition I didn't even realize. I kind of forgot about that. Is every 2 years, so if it's coming on that since the last time you guys did any OPMA training, it's a good opportunity to do it. So
Surprised
Get
you
it out
haven't
of the
made
way.
that mandatory for all planning commission commissioners. I think.
You have to remember, I don't control your lives. I tell you what you should be doing, and you have the handbook, and the handbook tells you what you should or shouldn't be doing. I don't. I do not run the planning commission. You are an independent body from me. I am here to advise, and then I make recommendations on applications, and I am an information source, but I have no control over you. The board doesn't even have control over you. The board does not approve your bylaws. You do. You create them, you control them. You police your fellow planning commission. There are circumstances where the board could remove a planning commissioner, but it's rare and it has to be a pretty heinous action for that to happen. You guys police yourselves. You are responsible. We will provide resources, but I can't dictate to you what you do. It's not my role. It's not the board's role. It's the planning commission. The state does, and that's the tier 2-year rule. And that's relatively new. I mean, it's,
But there's a good reason for that separation.
exactly.
Speak of.
That's exactly right. Your job, the way I used to explain it before, is the planning commission's job is to make sure I'm not a crazy person. Making wild recommendations.
If we think you are.
You can.
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone, if you can, I know it's a big time commitment, but I've always had really been appreciative of the short course because
Yeah.
the presenters are usually really good.
Yeah.
And it helps you understand your role in everything, exactly what your powers are, what they're not. And then also it helps you with, when somebody comes up and starts yelling at you for something, you're like, ain't wasn't me, man. Or whatever. You go talk to this person, they were the one that was in charge of that.
E-training, if each one of you can walk away with a couple things, it makes us a lot more effective.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also with regard to the OPMA, it puts you in a liability situation if you're not really familiar with. There's a
It
lot of
can,
things that
yeah.
you can do wrong and not even realize it, like, have a conversation or respond to a group email that has other, if you reply all, so that's actually can be construed as conducting a meeting without notifying the public, so.
It's,
You have to be
and
really
then it becomes a
careful.
matter of what was discussed in that group email. If you're talking about your kid's birthday party, you're perfectly fine. But then all of a sudden goes, hey, and now you have a problem, potentially.
Or if
So,
you're doing texting.
yeah, it
and
just
you're
helps.
texting that you're doing county business.
It gets
or
into your
talking about
computer.
county items.
Only,
can
so that,
also-
for example, us sending you text saying, are you going to be at the meeting tonight? That's not county business. That's in that circumstance. If I were to go, what's your opinion, or what do you think about this thing? You tell me not to ask. Because I can ask you, but once I ask, I can only ask up to 3. But best bet, you just don't go there. And that's why I will sometimes clamp down on conversations. But again, I don't have that control. I'm just saying, I'm not going to talk about that thing anymore with this group because you're going into areas I'm not allowed to talk about at that point, or they're not ripe, or things like that. So,
Well, the thing about using your personal cell phone is not so much as maybe you have violated the OPMA, is that there's somebody that is searching for records and you're using your cell phone. Well, you may have to submit everything that's on your cell phone as part of a lawsuit or
Yeah.
something like that. So you just.
you have to hand your phone over to a forensics guy, and he's not supposed to look at anything except for, and let's be real, they're pretty high integrity individuals that do this work because your reputation is everything. But
That's the FBI.
it doesn't change the fact that, one, you're going to be without your phone because it ain't like it takes 5 minutes. 2, you don't know what's going to get out there and be misinterpreted. So that's the other thing. So,
Bored as hell if he reads myself.
well, that's kind of me too. It's like, here you go. Yep, got a lot of texts asking people if they're going to come to work. Or them telling me they're not coming to work. Or everybody stay home, it's a snow emergency. Well, you wouldn't
What was
see.
the other workshop was, besides the OPMA?
It's Planning 101, OPMA, and
Kind of like legal, there's the whole legal
Westford.
primer,
rules and responsibilities.
Record?
Yeah, Public Records Act, yep, that's
Yeah.
part of the OPMA, so.
Oh, I see.
but understand that we, on our role, when we're communicating with you guys at least, we are always thinking about that. And I think what Melinda's mentioning is if you don't know what these roles are and you're just having a conversation one weekend, and then that thing shows, you hear Joe's doing that, blah, 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 and then that comes up, and then somehow somebody knows about it, yep, hand your phone over. So just keep that in mind. Don't
Well, we have a-
text, don't
we have a
use
lot of-
emails.
3 new members on here too.
Yeah. So one thing that we're looking at is creating a planning commission web email, or not website, emails for each of you. Once we get that set up, you're gonna need to use those, because that's how we're gonna be communicating with you. Because what happens then is it's called isolated. If the only time you guys ever talk about planning commission stuff is through that email, then that's all they have a right to look at. And it keeps down your risk. But that's, this public record stuff, I mean, it's a good, for me, I believe the intention's good, but I also know for a fact it's grossly abused. Title companies back in the day, why you paid them was they would go down to the courthouse, they'd look through the records and actually do stuff. I don't know how they operate here, but in some other jurisdictions I've been in, no, they just call the building department and basically compile a digital thing. They do have all the title and everything like that. They charge the same amount, but they're not doing the work. The building and planning departments are. Please send me all the information regarding this subdivision. Well, then I have to send it to them. And with that, they have everything they need. And then, yeah, they still have to do the title search, but that's all done by computers too. So, or marketing people, all sorts of stuff. Airway Heights had a big problem with prisoners doing it. And in fact, there was a cottage industry in the prison until the state changed the law that said, unless it's your case, you can't do it. Because if you don't comply, you get fined. And we're talking thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions, because it's accrues daily. The fine does. And until you produce those documents, that fine keeps building.
Do you have a
So-
records officer for the entire county, or is there one that serves in
Yes,
each department?
sort of. I mean, they go to the county administrator, and then they're routed out to the appropriate departments, and then each department has their person that does the actual departmental individual.
Who's the records officer for Franklin County?
I don't know, I don't do the public records requests in my county. My staff does that. But generally, they're signed off by the county administrator. So,
It's just curious.
we've had a lot of turnover there, so I don't know who's
Right.
doing what right now, in that office.
September 13th,
Yeah.
6 through 9.
Yeah, September 13th, 6 to 9.
And then I'm looking at putting together something where I'm going to be starting to go up into the North County to the Mesa grocery store at 7 a.m. once a month, so that farmers and folks that live up there can come in and have somebody to talk to. So I'm there to,
Counselor,
whatever they want. I got a little bit of everything, but primarily county business. And I realized the first bit is just going to be interesting, and I'll be hearing a lot. But then what'll happen is they come, they tell me, and then I'll do what I can to, I'm not saying that I'm going to be able to fix their problems or anything else. But what I am saying is that I'm going up there to listen to the needs of the North Franklin folks. And I'll be there every month, and they can come by and let me know things. But I'm there to help see if there's ways we can maximize the revenue potential for their properties while still maintaining the ag nature of the county, or whatever else. I'm starting to move a little bit more into economic development focus for the county and trying to figure out ways to generate additional revenue.
assessor isn't going up with the North.
I ain't talking about any assessment stuff. I'm not, nope.
Gosh, don't talk about travel either. That seems to be a hot topic.
Per diem. I'm not talking about any of that. That's policy. It's outside of our purview.
Be a sounding board.
If you have questions, contact Mr. Gonzalez, county
That-
administrator.
That date for the short course, is there any way we can move it to the next week?
No.
That's,
It's pretty much,
I
There's-
probably won't be there
Is that
then.
Connell.
It's Othello Fair, so I'll be hanging out with Manny's wife up in Othello.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, so Manny's,
know.
Manny's not gonna be here.
I'll still be here.
You and Olivia can come.
Thanks. Thanks, Nathan.
What a winner.
Full disclosure.
All right, where are we at? So that's about it for
8
me.
o'clock, meeting adjourned.
All right, thank you all.